ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about mental strength, true unshakable mental strength, it doesn't begin with toughness or talent or training. It begins with something deeper. It begins with purpose. That invisible force inside a woman that whispers to her, keep going, when everything outside her is telling her to stop. Purpose is what gives pain a direction. It's what turns obstacles into stepping stones and breakdowns into breakthroughs. Without purpose, the mind becomes noisy, distracted, overwhelmed. But when a woman knows why she's doing what she's doing, she becomes focused, grounded, and clear, no matter how chaotic the world gets around her. Purpose is not about having all the answers. It's about knowing what matters most and letting that guide every step forward. Think about the single mother who works 2 jobs, not because it's easy, but because she has a vision for her child's future. That's purpose in motion. Or the young woman standing up for her rights in a boardroom full of doubters. She's not driven by ego, she's driven by a mission. That's what mental strength looks like when purpose takes the wheel. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's just choosing to show up one more day. But make no mistake, there is power in that quiet persistence. Now, here's the truth. The world is full of distractions. Social pressure, comparison, judgment, fear. But a woman with purpose can walk through that noise untouched. Because when you're focused on your mission, you stop chasing approval. You stop bending to every opinion. You stop asking, am I good enough? And you start asking, is this aligned with my purpose? That shift is where strength begins. Purpose gives you boundaries. It gives you clarity. It gives you energy. Women who are purpose-driven don't waste time proving themselves to people who were never meant to understand their journey in the first place. And here's another truth. Purpose doesn't always look perfect. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's built out of pain. Many women find their deepest purpose after surviving something they thought would break them. That's not coincidence. That's transformation. It's often in our lowest moments that our true purpose begins to rise. When you've been through enough storms, you stop living for comfort and you start living for meaning. That's the power of a woman who has wrestled with life and come out the other side with fire in her soul and clarity in her heart. Purpose doesn't promise ease, but it promises direction. It gives your struggle meaning. It helps you endure because you're no longer just surviving. You're building, you're moving with intention. And that intention shapes your thoughts, your discipline, your resilience. You're not just reacting to life, you're leading it. That's what sets a mentally strong woman apart. She's not drifting, she's driving. When a woman is connected to her purpose, she doesn't need external validation to keep going. Her motivation is internal. Her focus is sharp, and her strength becomes contagious. She inspires others not because she's trying to, but because she's living what she believes in. That's the kind of strength that doesn't fade. That's the kind of strength that moves generations forward. So if you want to understand how women build mental strength, start by looking at what drives them behind every fearless decision, every bold step, every impossible victory. There is purpose. It may not always be obvious to the world, but it is always clear to her. That is her foundation. That is her fire. That is her unshakable why. And once she finds that, there's no stopping her. If there's one thing the world teaches women early, it's how to live with pain. Not because they choose it, but because life insists on handing it to them, sometimes in silence, sometimes in full force. It comes in the form of rejection, judgment, loss, betrayal, pressure, or just being underestimated day after day. And yet what separates mentally strong women from the rest is not that they avoid pain, it's that they transform it. They don't run from it. They don't bury it. They rise with it. They use it. They turn pain into power. And in doing so, they become unbreakable.
Pain is not weakness. In fact, it's often the birthplace of strength. Think about it. Some of the most resilient women you've ever seen. The ones who walk with quiet fire, who speak with weight behind their words, who hold space for others without crumbling themselves. Those women have been through things you couldn't imagine. But instead of letting that pain define them, they let it refine them. They didn't stay stuck in the hurt. They learned the lessons. They made it part of their story, not the end of it. That takes courage. That takes mental strength.
But here's what most people miss. Turning pain into power is not an overnight transformation. It's a process.
First comes the breakdown, the moment when everything feels too heavy to carry. The tears, the anger, the numbness. That part is real, and it must be honored, because mental strength doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means being real about what isn't, and still choosing to heal anyway. The strongest women are not the ones who avoid their emotions. They are the ones who face them head on, who walk through the fire and come out stronger on the other side. Some women turn pain into art, others into leadership, some into advocacy, some into silence that speaks volumes. What matters is that the pain doesn't sit idle, it evolves. It becomes fuel. A woman who has been hurt deeply and still chooses to love, to build, to rise, to lead. That's not just strength, that's transformation. She is not the same person she was before the pain. She's more focused, more clear, more powerful. Because once a woman realizes she can survive what she thought would destroy her, something inside her changes forever. We often celebrate the victories, the awards, the success, the outer accomplishments, but behind every fearless woman is a chapter of pain she doesn't always speak about. It shaped her, it taught her, and it gave her a quiet confidence that no applause could ever replace. Pain makes you patient, it makes you wise, it makes you empathetic, and it forces you to find parts of yourself you never knew existed. That's where true mental strength is born, in the shadows, in the struggle, in the slow, steady climb out of what tried to bury you. And let's be honest, sometimes pain doesn't leave you unchanged. It leaves a scar, but that scar is not a sign of defeat. It's a sign of survival. It's proof that you've endured, that you've rebuilt, and that you're still standing. There is something undeniably powerful about a woman who can say, yes, I've been through it, but it didn't break me. That's strength no one can take away. That's resilience that doesn't fade. When we talk about how women build mental strength, we must understand this. It's not in spite of their pain. It's because of it. They didn't just survive the hard chapters. They used them. They took the ashes and built something new. And in doing so, they didn't just become strong. They became unstoppable. Doubt is universal. Every woman at some point hears that little voice inside whispering, you're not ready, you're not good enough, what if you fail? That voice shows up when you're about to take a risk, when you're standing on the edge of growth, when you're daring to want more for your life. But here's what separates the mentally strong from the rest. They don't let doubt drive the car. They feel the fear, hear the voice, and keep moving anyway. How? Through discipline. Discipline is the force that steps in when motivation disappears. Discipline is the promise you keep to yourself when your confidence is shaky, when no one's watching, when everything in you wants to give up. Doubt is emotional. It plays games with your mind. It shows up in the form of comparison, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. But discipline is practical. It's daily. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. Mentally strong women don't wait to feel ready. They build routines, systems, and habits that carry them through the moments of uncertainty. They don't just act when it's convenient, they act when it's necessary, and that consistent action builds trust within. The more they show up, the quieter the doubt becomes. The world often romanticizes inspiration, like every great achievement came from a lightning bolt of genius or a burst of passion. But the truth is, most success comes from repetition, from practice, from doing the hard, unglamorous work again and again until you get it right. Mental strength is built in those ordinary moments, the early mornings, the late nights, the quiet decisions no one claps for. A focused woman trains her mind like a muscle. She understands that discipline is not a punishment, it's a form of self-respect. Doubt thrives in indecision. It loves when you hesitate. It grows stronger the longer you sit still. That's why mentally strong women don't spend their energy wrestling with every doubt that appears. They've learned to observe it, acknowledge it, and then move. Action is their antidote. They don't wait for the perfect mood or the perfect time. They rely on discipline to carry them through the imperfect ones. And over time, that pattern creates resilience. It creates evidence. Because nothing silences doubt more powerfully than proving it wrong through consistent action. Discipline is also a choice. It's choosing your future over your feelings.
It's choosing structure over chaos. It's waking up and honoring your goals when no one's pushing you. It's the decision to say no to distractions, even the tempting ones, because you've said yes to something greater. And every time a woman chooses discipline over doubt, she becomes more focused, more confident, more mentally strong, not because the path gets easier, but because she gets stronger. Some people mistake discipline for coldness or rigidity, but in reality, it's freedom. It frees you from being a prisoner of your emotions. It gives you direction when the world pulls you in 100 different ways. Mentally strong women don't eliminate doubt. They outwork it. They outfocus it. They outlast it. They don't need to feel fearless to act powerfully. They just need to be disciplined enough to keep moving, keep building, keep rising. When a woman commits to her growth with discipline, there is no doubt strong enough to hold her back. She doesn't need permission to be great. She doesn't wait for perfect confidence to begin. She understands this truth. You don't build belief before action. You build it through action. That is the essence of mental strength. That is how discipline defeats doubt. And that is how women keep rising, day after day, fearless, focused, and unshakably strong. The world has long misunderstood vulnerability. It has mistaken it for weakness, for fragility, for something to be hidden or avoided. But if you really want to understand the strength of a woman, watch her when she decides to stop pretending. Watch her when she lets go of the mask and says, "This is who I am. This is what I feel. This is what I've been through." That is not weakness. That is power in its rawest form. Because it takes far more courage to be seen fully than it does to stay silent. It takes mental strength to open yourself when the world expects you to stay closed. We live in a society that teaches women to be strong by being silent, to smile when they're hurting, to carry the weight without asking for help, to bury their emotions and keep moving like nothing is wrong. But that is not real strength. That is survival. And survival is not the same as thriving. A mentally strong woman learns, often through pain and experience, that vulnerability is not the enemy. In fact, it is the gateway to healing, connection, and real growth. She understands that emotional honesty doesn't make her less powerful, it makes her more powerful. Because when a woman allows herself to be vulnerable, she's not breaking down, she's breaking open. And in that space, something sacred happens. That's where real conversations begin. That's where support shows up. That's where healing begins to take root. Vulnerability allows her to tell the truth, not just to others, but to herself. And truth is the foundation of all strength. You can't fight what you won't face. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. Vulnerability brings what's hidden into the light, and only in the light can transformation happen. Mental strength is not about building walls. It's about building wisdom. And vulnerability gives women the insight to know what they need, what they feel, and what no longer serves them. It helps them set boundaries with love. It allows them to express their pain without apology. It lets them say, "I'm struggling," without feeling like they've failed. That kind of honesty doesn't weaken a woman, it deepens her. It gives her emotional range, resilience, and depth. She doesn't just survive storms, she learns how to dance in the rain. The truth is, vulnerability is not always comfortable. It requires trust. It requires risk. It asks women to step into uncertainty without knowing how they'll be received. And yes, sometimes that honesty is met with misunderstanding or rejection, but mentally strong women don't let that shut them down. They know that someone else's inability to handle their truth does not make their truth invalid. They learn to stand tall in their softness. They learn to hold space for themselves. They learn that real connection only happens when you stop pretending to have it all together. When a woman is vulnerable, she gives others permission to be real too. She changes the environment. She shifts the conversation from perfection to authenticity. And in doing so, she doesn't just empower herself, she empowers everyone around her. Her vulnerability becomes a bridge. It says you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be real. That's a message the world needs more of. Vulnerability is not the opposite of strength. It is the proof of it. It takes a steady mind and a brave heart to show up fully as yourself, especially in a world that rewards masks. But mentally strong women know this. You don't lose power by being vulnerable. You reclaim it in your truth, in your softness, in your openness. You find your unshakable center, and from that place, nothing can break you. That is the strength of vulnerability, and that is the soul of real resilience. Everything starts in the mind. Before you win in life, you win in your thoughts. Before you break limits out there, you break barriers in here, inside your head. That's why mentally strong women don't just train their bodies or sharpen their skills. They master their mindset. They know that the most dangerous battlefield isn't in the world. It's in the mind. It's where fear creeps in, where doubt grows, where old stories try to replay themselves over and over again. And unless you take control of that space will control you.
A powerful mindset doesn't come naturally. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build day by day, thought by thought. A woman who is fearless and focused doesn't have fewer challenges. She has stronger mental tools. She's learned to question her own limitations. She's learned to stop believing every negative thought that crosses her mind. She's trained herself to pause, to breathe, and to respond, not react. She understands that what she thinks shapes how she feels, and how she feels shapes what she does. That's the cycle, and she chooses to master it, not be mastered by it.
Mental strength isn't about ignoring problems. It's about meeting them with the right perspective. When something goes wrong, a weak mindset says, "Why me?" A strong mindset says, "What now?" That shift in language is everything. Mentally strong women have trained their minds to look for solutions, not just setbacks. They expect obstacles, not as punishment, but as part of the process. And because of that, they don't quit when it gets hard. They adjust, they pivot, they learn, they grow. They don't fall apart every time life gets heavy. They rise smarter, clearer, stronger. A focused mindset also protects a woman from the noise of the world. In a culture that constantly tells her who to be, how to act, what to look like, and what's too much, she learns to filter. She doesn't let every voice into her head. She chooses what she feeds her mind, what she reads, what she listens to, who she surrounds herself with. Because she knows this, your environment speaks into your beliefs, and your beliefs speak into your future. So she builds a mental environment that supports her vision, not her fear. The mind can be a trap, or it can be a weapon. And mentally strong women choose to make it a weapon for growth. They speak to themselves with power, even in private. They've learned to silence the inner critic and amplify the inner coach. When they fail, they don't say, "I'm a failure." They say, "This is feedback." When they feel fear, they don't say, "I can't." They say, "I can try." That mindset shift changes everything. It builds confidence from the inside out. Because true confidence is not arrogance, it's self-trust. And self-trust is built by showing up for yourself again and again. You see, mindset isn't about pretending to be positive all the time. It's about choosing to be powerful in how you respond to life. It's about discipline over drama, focus over fear, growth over excuses. Mentally strong women don't need perfect circumstances to stay grounded. They carry their calm with them. Their mind becomes their anchor, their shield, and their guide. And once a woman has trained her mind to serve her, not sabotage her, she becomes unstoppable. Mastering the mindset game isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to shrink. It's about taking ownership of your thoughts, your patterns, your power. Because the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And when a woman starts speaking to herself like someone she loves, someone she believes in, someone who is worthy of the life she's building, everything changes. That's the mindset that fuels mental strength. That's the mindset that carries her through every storm. There comes a point in every strong woman's journey when she begins to ask herself a deeper question. Not just, what am I doing with my life, but what will my life mean when I'm gone? Because mental strength isn't just about pushing through tough days or chasing personal goals. It's about building something that lasts. It's about making choices today that echo tomorrow. A woman who is fearless and focused doesn't just live for herself. She lives for impact. She knows that what she builds, how she shows up, and who she becomes will shape more than just her own story. It will shape others. It will inspire others. It will leave a mark long after she's gone. There's power in purpose. And when a woman aligns her actions with a purpose bigger than comfort, bigger than praise, bigger than instant results, something shifts. Her mindset becomes sharper. Her energy becomes sacred. She doesn't waste time chasing approval. She doesn't let distractions pull her off course. She starts moving differently, speaking differently, living differently, because she understands she's not just passing through life, she's planting seeds, seeds of change, seeds of courage, seeds of legacy. Legacy isn't about having your name in lights. It's about how people feel when they've met you. It's about the encouragement you gave, the wisdom you shared, the doors you opened for others. It's about being the kind of woman who lifts others as she climbs, who remembers the struggle and reaches back with grace. It's about showing the next generation what's possible, not just by telling them, but by living it. The mentally strong woman builds a legacy with every choice she makes, not by accident, but by intention. She knows the world is watching not for perfection, but for proof. Proof that it's possible to rise with integrity, to succeed without selling your soul, to lead with heart, not ego. That's the kind of legacy that matters, and it doesn't start when you're older or when you're ready. It starts in the everyday moments, in how you treat people, in how you keep your word, in how you bounce back when life tries to break you. Every action, every word, every decision, it's all part of the story you leave behind. Mentally strong women understand that a legacy is built not in big, loud moments, but in consistent, quiet ones. Showing up for your family, giving your best at work, saying no to things that don't align with your values, fighting for your dreams even when no one claps. These things add up over time. They shape how the world remembers you, and more importantly, they shape how you remember yourself. Building a legacy also means being brave enough to stand alone sometimes. It means walking away from things that dim your light. It means doing what's right even when it's hard. Because when you're building something that lasts, shortcuts won't serve you. Popularity won't sustain you. Only purpose will. That's what guides the mentally strong woman, her purpose, her vision, her impact. This world doesn't just need more success stories. It needs more legacy builders, more women who aren't afraid to lead with love, with fire, with truth. More women who rise not just to prove a point, but to make a difference. That's what true mental strength creates. Not just a life that looks good, but a life that means something. A life that speaks even after she's gone. That is the mark of a fearless and focused woman. And that more than anything is how she builds her legacy.